running any kind of business, there's so many different obstacles that are faced, right? Can you share with us some of the biggest obstacles that you face as a business owner? And can you maybe touch on it pre-COVID and then after COVID, if you can, please?
As a restaurant, specifically in the city, there's competition. Competition is going to be your number one, I guess, obstacle, because there are so many people that are coming up with new ideas. And the fact that we've been in the business for such a long time, we have to walk a careful line in the sense that, we have to stay true to what we know and what we're known for and what we're good for, and not deviate from that, because a lot of times what places tend to do is they hit trends and they try to hit trends a little too hard. And I think that's where a lot of businesses fail. And this goes for any business. I mean, you have to be realistic. I remember an old business teacher I had said, whenever you think about a business, whether it's selling envelopes or selling tacos, you have to think about how many tacos do I have to sell to keep these doors open? And that's just, it's basic, it's common sense, but at the same time, not a lot of people think about that too much. They say, oh, well, I'm a good artist, so I'm going to open up my studio. And well, there's a lot that goes into it, in terms of like overhead, just expenses that you don't really think about when you think about running a business, and there's a lot of things that as a business owner, you have to think about, whether it's your overhead, whether it's personnel, retaining personnel. Obviously in the restaurant industry, there's a very high turnover rate. You have people that are seasonal workers, so you have people that come in, especially like college kids, they come in and they, work during the summer and then they go back to school. So you got that to deal with. Then you got issues as far as like salaries. The minimum wage here in the city of Chicago has increased. So if we're talking about things that we should be concerned about, the most important things, cost of labor has skyrocketed. I know for a fact in the city of Chicago, we're scheduled to be at the $15 mark pretty soon. And that's kind of scary. Yeah, that's kind of scary, because now you're talking $15 for an hour's worth of work. And you multiply that by the number of employees you have, it's a nice chunk of change. Yeah, and so then you couple that with...
I remember it used to be around, like 9 or 10, maybe about, we're talking about 10, 15 years ago already, right? Somewhere around...
Yeah.
15 years ago, it was around 9 or 10, so just to give people an idea, it's almost double again. I mean, tax, same thing.
Yeah.
Tax used to be
Tax used to be
8.75, 8.7.
Right. So let's talk about the cost of labor being a big deal. One, there's obviously the salary component of it, which is what you're paying your staff, and then two, the payroll taxes, because just because we're paying you more doesn't mean we're not paying less. We're actually paying more in terms of payroll taxes. So then there's that component. And so you put all that together, and then you add that into cost of goods. So everything is going up. So you got your cost of goods going up, your cost of labor going up. And so then the profit is diminishing, because that little bit of profit that you did have it's going by the wayside, in the sense that, now you have more taxes, you have more insurance, you have higher salaries, costs are I'll give you an example. The steak that we use here, we pride ourselves on because it's top of the line steak, and you get what you pay for. And I'm a big believer that if you try to cut corners, people will notice. For instance, there's different kinds of, not to get too technical, right? But there's different kinds of steaks. And so there's a way that you can get into a different tier or get into this tier. And so sometimes people think that by staying at this tier, people won't notice, but the consumer knows. I've been eating Mexican food all my life, and I go to restaurants and I see people trying to push off a carne asada with something that's not a carne asada. It's the consumer is not dumb. The consumer has tried other places, has ventured out into different restaurants. So if you try to pull a fast one, it's not going to sit well. So it's better just to be upfront, give them the best product, and be consistent. And that's another thing that we have to work with, and consistency, making sure that whether it's the food, especially the margaritas,
Yeah.
that they're consistent, because we have people that they've been coming here for years because they like the consistency. Oh, we like this. And if for whatever reason something changes where, like, I don't know, like say for instance, the salsa is a little too spicy. You got the seasonal aspect of things where, the jalapenos maybe went a little bit more than the previous months. Then it's just seasonal. So there's nothing you can do about that. It's the same recipe. It just happens that the jalapenos are a little spicier, but it's the same recipe,
Yeah.
But in terms of things that we as a business have to worry about, it's, in my opinion, it's cost of labor. The cost of labor has skyrocketed, and it's not easy to absorb the costs as much as it was before. Going back to the steak, when we first started purchasing the steaks, and I think about this a lot because one of our purveyors was with us for, I don't know, about 15 years, and he's like, how many years ago you started buying these steaks from us? It's like, I think it was like 11 years at that point.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you used to pay less than $2 for this steak. Now, like, as we near like Cinco de Mayo or any big day like that, it goes up to like $9, $10 a pound. And so there's other things that stay consistent, but that is one of the products that it's hard to judge where the price is going to be. All we know, it's always going to be up. It's especially during seasonal days like Cinco de Mayo, even during the summer because everyone's grilling. So yeah.
Well, it kind of makes sense, like the demand. The same thing with aguacates,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
whole aguacates, yeah.
Limes,
Lime.
aguacates. Yeah. Yeah.
So real quick question that I want to touch on, Israel, I didn't have this on my list of questions for you, but I believe that I think we had a kind of similar, upbringings in regards to growing up in a family business.
Yeah.
I started working with my dad when I was 13 and he had a jewelry store, and I pretty much spent like my whole youth there. Was that similar for you? Like growing up, like
Oh,
were you there at the restaurant a lot?
all day, every day. And it's funny because for a very, very long time, I didn't have weekends. I had no weekends. Like when I started pulling back a little bit, it was when my kids were getting a little older and I needed to be there, like to coach and stuff like that. But up until then, I had really held back on enjoying the weekends. For us, the weekends are busy days. Our
Restaurant.
Monday, we'll say like our Monday through Friday, our Monday through Fridays are our downtime, and then our Fridays and Saturdays, sometimes even Sundays, are peaks. So we have to be here. And my dad was very, very adamant about not taking days off and not just always being present. We always had to be present because we're, for all intents and purposes, we're the face of the restaurant. And so people always like to make that connection, especially nowadays where you see a familiar face, and whether it's me or whether it's our staff, you get comfortable. And so that's a big component of what we do. And, you get your regulars, you get people that have known you for years. And then I've actually have friends that I made through the restaurant because I've been here so long. I remember even back when I was in high school, I was a junior in high school. My dad bought a little fast food joint. And that was like the beginning of everything. He always wanted some sort of catering. He wanted to do something, right? And this business opportunity came about, bought a fast food restaurant. It was right down the street from my school. So at that point, I think I had fairly decent grades, and I was able to maneuver my schedule so that I would go in for my study. I think it was called study hall or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would do is I would go for my study, stay there, work, and then, because I don't know if you remember, but they had different lunch periods. So we had lunch 1, lunch 2, lunch 3, whatever. So I would stay there for, I don't know, like 2.5 hours. I would work And then I would finish, and then I'd go back to school. And my friends would always, I mean, till this day, they always remind me of how my dad used to start yelling at me, be like, hey, you can't hook them up. No hookups, no hookups. They're my friends. So I tried to take care of them, but, you know, business was business. So that was the first opportunity. And then we started doing like catering, like backstage catering. So we worked with a company called Cardenas and Fernandez for a very long time. I think they're still around. They're called Cardenas Marketing.
Okay.
So they did a lot of these high-end productions like the Pan American Fest. There was, oh my God, Ovación 105. So they worked with like local Latin companies, bringing in stars like Juan Gabriel, Alejandro Fernandez, Celia Cruz, Jose Jose. So we were always there. We were always there, whether it was, you know, backstage catering, whether it's fast food. You know, we're fully embedded into the family business. And then, you know, we all went to school. My sisters, we all finished school, but we all somehow end up back in the restaurant. And so then it was like, I think it was like 99 or 2000. My dad really started getting an itch, and he was like, I need to open up another place. And I was working for a consulting firm. I was like, you know what? Yeah, this would be a good opportunity. And like, I could always come back if it doesn't work or whatever, or at least help my dad set it up. And well, here we are 20 years later, and I never went back. So yeah, I mean, being part of the family business is, you know, it's in your DNA, you know, and it's really cool because of all of this that's been going on. My kids have been exposed. Actually, not anymore, because now we're taking more precautions. But the first couple of days when I was doing the deliveries, my kids were here and they were writing notes, and we were putting them in the order, saying thanks to people. And both my kids were like, man, we didn't realize all the work that you did. Like, there's a lot of work that goes on, you know, in the restaurant. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, and that's just like a portion. You know, all I'm doing is like bagging and putting stuff in my car and dropping it off. Obviously taking orders over the phone, the old school way right now. But my kids had only been privy to like coming into the restaurant, ordering food, and then, you know, just enjoying that. You know, so a sense of appreciation on their end is pretty cool, because now they see things from a different lens. So that's cool.
So it sounds like yes, we had kind of like a similar upbringing where we were really young when we started getting into business. Like how did that impact you in the long run in terms of being exposed to it at such an early age by your father?
You know what? I think that's why we've been able to stay afloat. I'm not gonna say successful, because it's a different time right now. But even before this, just being resilient, you know, not giving up, and just pushing forward, staying positive. As hard as it is to stay positive all the time, you have to keep your head up. You have to keep your head up, especially in this business. It's so easy to, you know, get down on yourself because, oh, you know, it's not as busy, or, you know, what happened? What did we do? What could we do? You know, these marketing plans didn't work out. But then you have that day that it's like, whoa, where did this all come from? You know, and then you start seeing people that you haven't seen in a while. And, you know, because we are where we are, both locations, we have a lot of people that aren't here for a very long time. So we have a small window to make an impact. You know, this isn't an area where you have a lot of people that stay here for a very, very long time. And going back to how all this Cesar's Mobile has evolved, is I've met so many people up north, out in the suburbs, that will say, oh my God, I remember I used to go to Cesar's when I was going to school at Loyola or DePaul or Northwestern. We used to go there all the time, and it's nice that you're delivering out here. So because we've worked so hard to make this brand last for such a long time, you know, it's in our best interest to keep it going as long as we can. It does come with its benefits, obviously, lots of benefits. The ability to make your own schedule. Obviously, right now, again, pre-COVID, I was like coach dad, you know, like that. I coach everything, you know, because one, I had the ability to do it. The schedule allowed me to do it. But most importantly, it gave me the opportunity to be with my kids, you know, and something that I know that they'll treasure, even those on the field moments that sometimes are not as memorable. You still make those memories and you create them, and those are things that you've built a foundation on, you know. And I I say this to my son specifically because I remember when I was growing up, I went through a stage where I didn't really want to hang out with my parents anymore. And I think everyone goes through that, you know, like we're all so used to, you know, always being with the family. And man, I remember we were like 19 and 20 and we were still going to functions. Like we had to go. We didn't have a choice. We had to go, you know, and I think that kind of goes the same with you know, like you don't have a choice. You're going, you know, you live here, you're going. So and now I look back at it and I'm like, man, that was good times, you know, like that's family, you know, and I told my son, I'm like, there's going to be a point, I understand, where you're not going to want to hang out with me and you're going to want to, you know, just be with your friends. He's like, oh no, papi, I always want to hang out with you. So I've recorded him a couple times because I'm gonna use that.
I'm gonna use it later, right? Like, hey, I got it.
Remember?
Are we lucky our parents didn't have the technology that we have now? Oh man, we'd have a lot. Yeah, I mean, my dad had a camera, so I haven't embarrassing pictures out there. But man,
yeah, I feel you.
it's even crazy. It's even crazier now.